Men are supposed to be stoic, quiet, strong. Nothing's supposed to get to us.
From a young age, we're all told that you have to be tough.
When you're a real man, you can't hold hands or cry.
You're not supposed to cry, not supposed to laugh, just keep it all bottled up. Well, I feel like every time I leave my house, I have to man up. I'm a dude, so I fight everything.
I see a future where we've created new definitions for ourselves.
Welcome again to another segment of Manhood Revisited. This is a bi-weekly podcast where we explore the challenges that men face and offer insights on how men can live a positive and healthy expression of masculinity. Today, I'm excited to go into part 2 of a discussion that I've been having with my brother and my friend, Dr. Larry French, who is a mental health or mental wellness and well-being clinician who has been working in the northern Oklahoma area. He's been a clinical supervisor. He's written books and he's written publications. And we're talking about cultural frameworks in the Afro-Indigenous male. And so, Larry, I'm happy to bring you back for this part 2 of this discussion, or start this part 2 of this discussion on cultural frameworks in the African Indigenous male. Let me sort of rehash some of what we discussed as in part 1, and talking about the challenges men are having now, trying to live this traditional social construct around what it means to be a man and around masculinity is starting to show cracks. Whether we call those cracks toxic masculinity, which I don't like that term either, or as the University of Texas at Austin said, masculinity is a mental health issue. The point of it is that we are seeing some problems as men try to live out this current social construct around what does it mean to be a man. Men don't cry. Men don't have problems that need to be addressed. Men don't go to counseling. All of these things that have been, traditionally a part of what it means to be a man and how we've understood manhood is beginning to show some cracks. And you were talking about a part of the challenge is trying to look out more than one window. That, we've been looking at masculinity and manhood through a primarily Western understanding of manhood, and that there are other traditions, particularly our own African cultural traditions and other cultural traditions that offer value for, how we think about what it means to be a man. And so I want to pick back up in that discussion. But before we go further, you coined this term. I've never heard it used before, the Afro-Indigenous male. So tell us what you mean by this term, the Afro-Indigenous male.
Yes, what I mean by that is the indigenous or original value system that comes from an Africoid participation in the cosmos, in life, and having a value system rooted and grounded and even sustained by an Africoid worldview. And so
Okay.
out of that understanding or out of that framework comes what it means to be a man. Let's say, for example, just real briefly, if you study the Bantu cosmology, many people who are over here.
Interesting that you mentioned that, because one of my first books that I read, maybe around 14 or 15, was Bantu philosophy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So in that, many African Americans who are over here have some affiliation with the Bantu bloodline.
Okay.
Or if you say the Basotho people in South Africa who learned from African philosophy. There's a book that's written on African philosophical transcendence, where he just talks about how one can learn about so much about life from looking at the desert flower. And there's parables that come from this desert and looking at the flower. And so lessons are learned by different people groups
Okay.
based on where they come from and what's been passed down to them and their surroundings and their environment. And all I ask is that we have to be careful to take a look at those when we're trying to establish a healthy psyche. It doesn't mean I'm trying to be exclusivist
Sure.
and say that
Sure.
there aren't some things that are constants. There aren't some things that don't run together, or
Sure.
we're only trying to solve the problem of one particular community. But I think that sometimes if you're trying to solve a big problem, you have to look at some of the, you have to start with dealing with some of the small faults, as they would say in our stars.
Mm. Oh, that's very profound. That's very profound. And have you? I know you began to look, and you're giving some examples of your exploration of the cultural heritage, what you refer to as African cosmology, or the worldview from various indigenous African tribes and people. Lift up some for you just shared a few. Lift up some more that you think is crucial in our attempt to craft what I refer to as the new construct, or the new thinking that will allow for the emergence of a new framework for understanding how to be a healthy man.
Yeah, and I would probably say renewed.
Renewed. Okay.
Yeah, I would
Renewed.
probably say
Good term.
renewed.
And
Yeah,
good term.
yeah, yeah.
Explain why you, and I'm glad you said that, and explain why you said that instead of
the
what I
reason
said.
is-
Yeah.
yes, sir. Because what we're dealing with is not new. We will, in fact, discover that when we go back,
Okay.
when we're pursuing wholeness and health, everything that is latest is not the greatest. What we will find is that we suffer from a historical myopia that keeps us from going back and appreciating the things that great great granddaddy and great great grandmama was always trying to teach us and trying to tell us and establish in us. And I think that when we go back culturally and socio-historically, we oftentimes find a breath of fresh air and say, man, mama was right, daddy was right. And so I think what we'll find is, let's say, for example, our sense of community. Okay. African peoples have always been a very communal people. We have always understood the Ubuntu philosophy of I am because you are, and because you are. I am because we are, and because we are, therefore I am.
Yes.
It is difficult to live in an individualistic society and an economy based on individualistic persons and homes, and close your garage and don't say hi to the neighbors. When in your biogenetic makeup is something that says, I must see me in another person, and another person must see themselves in me in order for us to be able to healthily bond. We must be pro-social. There's not a choice between being antisocial and being social. We understood, it was already built in us. We understood that to be alive was to be social. The question was how, not whether we would.
Okay.
And today, we oftentimes ask whether or not we're going to be social. Well, the social contract doesn't ask for our permission. The Afro indigenous value system understood that, Mario.
Okay. So, when you compare to I think, therefore I am, which is a very individualist approach to living, which creates a lot of fragmentation between individuals, as well as fragmentation between individuals and the ecology, the environment. And then when you look at because you are I am, which is Ubuntu, which then is a more ecological construct. What I hear you saying is that if we begin to reappropriate those kinds of ancient paradigms for understanding community, for understanding our place in community, for understanding our role in community, for understanding our responsibility as individuals in the community, that those constructs, those paradigms, those past cultural frameworks will have value for healing and setting a renewed understanding that can be healthier and positive, and that could address some of the cracks that we're starting to see. Let me ask this question to you.
Mhm.
Are you suggesting that this would be valuable for African American males, or are you saying that past and those culture traditions would be valuable across ethnic groups and peoples and ethnicity?
Yes, I would say both, and I would say that they would be helpful anytime you look at the best of another people and their traditions, especially in the day and age that we live today, where we're able to appreciate and live amongst other people in a way uh, because of technology and such, and learning about other people and being able to talk to people from across the world. Now we're able to appreciate people from all different walks of life. But in order to really get to know a people, you have to appreciate them as a people and understand what they bring to the table. And you want each people group to bring their best to the table,
Okay.
so that we can truly say we're all present at the table.
Okay.
And there's not a fragmented sense of self with one people group or several people groups sitting at the table who are overrepresented and some underrepresented. So when I'm saying this, I'm being a champion for people being comfortable within their own framework and bringing that framework to the table in a
Okay.
way where we can all look and learn from each other. So let's say, for example, yes, sometimes you have to go back before you can go forward. You have to go back before you can go forward. Let's say, for example,
Sankofa. That's Sankofa.
oh yes, that's
That's
exactly right.
Sankofa. Yeah, looking back, reaching back, and bringing it forward.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So let's say, for example, let's look at some practical things. Let's say, for example, today's athlete. Sometimes I ask, every athlete should, especially black athlete, I watch a lot of basketball, they should all have a mentor. Now they don't, but they should all have a mentor. All right.
Okay.
Whether that be a father, a father figure, an uncle, somebody who's a mentor. But for all of them to have a microphone and to speak their mind is, in a sense, not African, because what you would have to say, not I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I'm going to go to my council of elders
Mm-hmm.
and have my knife sharpened. Iron sharpens iron, and I'm gonna have my thoughts challenged before I speak into
Okay.
or represent my community.
Okay.
I won't answer a question about significant issues until my elders give me permission to speak, so to speak. Now, how does that work out in the modern day? We can talk about that. I've got plenty of suggestions.
Okay.
But what I am saying is that when you live in an individualistic society that says if you make the most money, you get to talk the loudest, or you get to represent your community, you have people talking who have no discernment and no wisdom.
Okay.
And you can't buy into that kind of framework. You can't speak for me. You need to have a mentor that's 10, 20 years older than you, that is helping you sift ideas and grow and develop a sense of discernment. So sometimes when you're in an African crowd, the younger ones in there, before they speak, they'll say something like, Mr. Moriel, Elder McClellan, Elder Moriel, may I speak? If the
Okay.
elders in the village do not allow you to speak, you don't speak. They've lived long enough time where their brains have developed. They've gone around the sun enough times. They've run many more laps than we run, And so they have a better sense of life and a wisdom that is passed down. And that was respected in the African tradition. These days, whether you're talking about raising children or grabbing a microphone and thinking that because you
It's your
have
3 minutes of fame.
yes, exactly. And some communal indigenous peoples or minority groups, you would say in the States, or people groups that are more communal or collectivist
Okay.
would not dare grab a microphone and speak as an individual apart from their families.
So what you're saying is that a part of what needs to happen for males is not just some individual. I'm going back to the whole mental health side of it now.
Yes, sir. Yes.
As a clinician, usually when you would see a person would come to you with some challenges, they're coming as an individual,
Right.
and the traditional approach to a mental health practice or mental emotional well-being practitioner, counselor, would be to address that individual's needs for growth and healing and resolving issues from their past or whatever. You're saying that a part of this work is reconstructing some communal elements, some communal frameworks that help shape the individual's behavior and actions and the attitudes. That's sort of challenging in this day and time, wouldn't you say? Or where do you see the challenges in being able to do that?
Absolutely. It's absolutely challenging. And it's one of the reasons therapist offices are so filled up. It's one of the reasons people like me stay so occupied or busy, as the word that they use.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. You don't have to make the case. The case is already made that what I'm proposing that is a basic human need has to be there in order for wellness to be attained. So, for example, when a person comes in individually, whether it's addiction or whether it's mental health wise, you look for social supports like
Yes.
NA, AA,
Yeah,
things
definitely.
like that.
Definitely.
Bring
Definitely.
an element of community to them and accountability. If you need a
Yes.
sponsor,
Yes.
somebody who's been there like you, that's
Yes.
a mentor.
Yes.
We may have different words, but it's the same thing. You say, are you sitting at home? Do you have a lifeline? Do you
Yes.
attend a
Yes.
church?
Right.
Do you have a faith group that bonds you together with other people?
Right.
So this is already something we're trying to connect people with when they come in.
Yeah. So it's continuing to, redevelop and reestablish those aspects. There are already elements of it in place. It's just building up, going back in the past, fetching forward certain other elements of it and putting those things as an attachment to whatever already exists. Is that the point?
Yes, building, like you said, building those things in that we know are basic human needs. Let me give you another quick example. One of the reasons men need counseling today, there is a healthy reason why men did not go into counseling, as well as women, anybody.
Okay.
Is because in the past, when you had more of a communal value system and network, there were already natural built-in therapeutic environments. So you got your needs met by being in these types of environments that were more communal.
Okay.
And there was more of a sense of sharing and caring. And there's a built-in resiliency when you have people well adjusted within this kind of framework. However, when that breaks apart, when you start moving all over the country, when you live away from your family, when you get the job that takes you to Canada, when you get
isolation,
when you get a degree and you think you can just go wherever you want to go, and again, you get married and you have a couple kids, and then your marriage is falling apart, and all of a sudden you start saying, "Where's mama and where's daddy?" All of a sudden the roots start calling you again. And so what we're saying here is that certainly is an element of that we cannot escape when we're talking about well-being that we can revisit.
Okay, so we're on the path and to healthy manhood,
Yeah.
and we need signs and guideposts that lead us in the direction we need to travel as men of any ethnicity. We need signposts. We need maps. Guide us. Tell us how we can begin using your understanding of cultural frameworks and the power of cultural frameworks and revisiting powerful cultural frameworks from our past. How do we move forward?
We need men that thunder. We have to have men when they walk, as it says in the Older Testament, that there's this idea that every step that he took could be his territory. Men that understand that they represent not just themselves, but they represent their families. They represent their seed bearers. They have the ability to be able to populate a whole village if they if that were something that was looked at just idealistically.
Mm-hmm.
They are people who represent generations. We're not just detached people running around, but we're people that have there's something called epigenetics that looks into how our genetics influence our temperament, influence our bodies, influence how we get sick, influence how we get well. This we need a vision of manhood in front of us that is worthwhile. The younger generation, one of the reasons they're so disappointed and they can go so wayward with where to put their energies, the young teenager, the young boy that's
Mm-hmm.
trying to look up and looking at athletes and looking at rappers or looking at people who have a lot of money or
Mm-hmm.
social influencers on the internet. They're begging for an initiation into manhood that actually digs into their hearts, minds, and soul and leaves a mark that they say, where they say, this is something that is worthwhile. This is something that I'll sell everything and look for. I'll sweep the house looking for this coin, as the parable says in the Newer Testament. I'll sweep the house. I'll look. I'll sweep and I'll look and I'll look and I'll look. I'll keep knocking. I'll keep seeking. But there has to be a sense of questing. This is another native, sort of a native term.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Questing, rites of passage. These things have to be revisited, and they're all guideposts for where we want to go. But we first have to give people an appetite again for what it means to be a man that thunders.
Okay. That's a lot of work. Building those rites of passage, those questing opportunities for young men. That's a lot of work for men like you and I. But you're absolutely right. We have to reconnect a sense of community, a sense of spirit, a sense of having a place in a larger cosmos, and understanding that your actions and your well-being is influencing the universe, and therefore building your mind and spirit, your values, your choices around that understanding is certainly different than simply believing that you're just here trying to find the best path to earn a living and take care of yourself and enjoy some pleasures in life. That's certainly a radically different structuring of the masculine mind. It's great to have brothers like you working in doing the work, the research, and bringing forth some of the nuggets, the tools that help us find our way back, because that path has been hedged up, and many of us You're telling us to get back to something that many of us don't even know existed. And so how do we get back to a reality that we are so disconnected from and we have no idea was ever there? So, one is the education to understand that past, to understand the indigenous cultures and what they bring forth, and then to fetch from that past what we need to do now to restructure our thinking about what it means to be a man, and then for that to become the norm, the normative construct to replace what's there, or in addition to what's there, or superior to what's there, is our challenge. What's next for you on this journey, in this work?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because what's next for me, I think, is just continuing to do the hard work of under girding and lifting up the upcoming generation, and uniting hearts and minds with the sense of self. I'm not just talking about uniting hearts and minds in a way that is, you hear people say pedantically, everybody. What I mean is united sense of self, a knitting back together of the self that is empowering. And when people can be who they are, uh, that's plenty enough. And
Okay.
we're everybody's born to solve a problem, as I heard one of the wisdom writers say. All of us we're solutions to a problem. We're the balm. We're balms in Gilead, as they say. Where's the balm? It's us. And my work, it consists of multiplying, doing more writing,
Okay.
and trying to, like you said, bridge the gap
Okay.
between the past and the present, and finding ways where we can constructively apply our wisdom traditions that come to us and down through us, and put ourselves back together again so that we can go forward full force. And so
Thank
that's
you.
what I'm gonna continue to do by writing, by doing conferences. I have several conferences coming up that I'll be speaking at, doing workshops on parenting, manhood. I got one coming up on sexuality next
Okay.
week that I'll be dealing with. So that's some of my work, is trying to multiply and trying to spread the spirit of what
Okay.
we're talking about, of what we're talking about today.
Well, thank you. Thank you, my brother, my friend, Dr. Larry French. And, we certainly will be having you back on many more occasions to continue this conversation. Thank you for tuning in. You have been listening to Manhood Revisited. My friend, Dr. Larry French, we've been sharing on cultural frameworks in the Afro-Indigenous male. Look forward to the next segment, and keep tuning in. Thank you very much. I'm your host, A. Moriel McClurkin.